Chacha Saltmain, Chacha Titel Siam, Heichka. Dichwam I Amastalch, Aquatha Quamquam Stuch to Squalaman. Dichwam Te I Amastalch, Aquatha Ait Squalaman. Dichwam Flachant des de Ligeth, I Lalamathet Zap at the Salchanst. Tiwiath San Quaswa Kikolis I Kakit Misdemach. Die hwm slatha constoch dan y twalmwch. Haid ga the hael eit sgweil. Haid ga quans nanw tli at nemeth. Na was gwam kwamstant na syri. Haid ga. Oh, 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 oh. Whoa, ho, 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 whoa, ho, 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 whoa, ho. Oh, 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 whoa, ho, 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 whoa, ho, 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 whoa, ho, whoa,
Right, squeal, CMC, right, some question for opening our house following the protocol of this territory. Minuilam, welcome to all of our visitors to our TRC 57 speaker series. Antapa, my name is Ted Cadwallader. I'll be your host today. I join you from the traditional, unceded and beautiful territory of the Snuneymuxw people on what is now Southern Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada. Our school district here is on a path to learn to walk better on this territory and with more understanding. And I've asked for guidance from a number of knowledge keepers to share their learning with us. And we're pleased that you're able to listen and learn with us on your own learning journey of understanding. So it's my pleasure to welcome Jerry Fontaine to kick off this series of speakers. Jerry is Ojibway-Anishinabe from Sakin First Nation in what is now Manitoba. His breadth of experience has provided him a foundation to walk well in this world. He too is a seeker of knowledge, learning from ancestors, from teachers, from friends, colleagues, from the world around him. In his book, Our Hearts Are as One Fire, Jerry shares how the traditional teachings of ancestors are still applicable and maybe even essential today if we're going to live with each other in relationship with the land and all of our relatives. And he joins us today to share some of his learning with us. So meet Nuilam, our relative Jerry Fontaine.
Oh, Nigoch, one about Makwag, Makwag Tuta, Ojibway-Anishinabe ni Sageton Tonchi. Migoch Danawa, Quer, or Kikitun Unja, Gaging, Ted Kikitun Unja Gaging, Migoch, Apachichi Migoch, Migoch Danawa, and then Newa, Nagamon, Unja Sugar, Namiyaman, Gare. Miigwech the Goek Sonne Muk Anishinabek Mewe Techuasa Genebi Nong Yawok Apachichi Miigwech where Kikitununja Chikegu Anisha Kinama Gawanan Kikituanan Chikego Apachi the chicken. My name is my Ojibway-Anishinabe name is Bear Chief. I'm Bear Clan. I'm an Ojibway speaking human being from where the river widens in what we in Manitou Aki, where the creator sits, which is now this place called Manitoba. I thank Stephanie for giving me for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to speak today. I've given thanks to Ted as well for agreeing to share these words, and Lawrence as well for his song and his invocation. I'm honored to have this opportunity to visit your territory virtually. You know, your traditional, unceded, and beautiful territory. It's been great for giving me this opportunity. And I guess in terms of the talk today, I just want to also say I want to call the spirit of Ojibway to come to Shinwa. I'm going to do that in Ojibway. Nimikwene ma Iwanakina in any yoke. Nimikwene ma kia Iwino Ojibway to come to Sugar Shinwa. Miigwecha dina in any yoke Ugima Wanak. Inakanege Wenja. Should go eat one. Indicator one. You wear the watch the now in New York. I just wanted to because part of this talk will be focused on, you know, on these three men. So I wanted to honor them, and I wanted to call upon their spirits and to be here with us today as well. So in terms of the, maybe I'll give you some background, some context in terms of how this book came to be. I was elected under the Indian Act in the late 80s. I was relatively young. And the community of Saging was very divided when I got elected to this Indian Act position. And I have to say, I was actually living in Paris, France, when I was asked to run for this position. And my friend he's still my friend, but my friend during that time gave me a call and asked whether I'd be interested in letting my name stand for this Indian Act position. And my answer to him at that time was, well, Lloyd, you know, in case you haven't noticed or heard, I'm living out of the country. And he says, that's exactly why we'd like for you to let your name stand for this position. Because the community, he said, you know, is divided. There's two very strong opposing sides. And you're not involved in any of this division. You're completely outside of it. And in fact, the fact that you know, we haven't heard your input in terms of the arguments taking place here tells me that you know, you'd be good for this position. So I agreed, and lo and behold, I was elected to the Indian Act position. And I have to say as well, I come from a very political family. You know, my grandmother, Agnes Fontaine, was elected to Indian Act Council in 1952. She was one of the first, if not the first, woman elected to an Indian Act Council at that time. My uncles, my father and my uncles also served as Indian Act chiefs in council. So I saw relatively early the importance of leadership, leadership and gumawan, you know, governance. I heard it every day. I heard, you know, the struggles that my father, my grandmother, my uncles had in these leadership positions. So I understand. I didn't understand the reasons for what I heard. So, and I have to say as well, I never wanted to be involved in politics, Indian Act politics, because it just wasn't my place, I felt at that time. But needless to say, I got elected to council in 1987 to this position of Indian Act chief. And then one of the first conversations I asked, or I had, was with my late mom. I have to acknowledge her, Gaby, because they don't know me, mama, it's my mom I hear when I speak Ojibway-Anishinabe. So it was one of the first important discussions or conversation I had regarding this position was with my mom. And my mom asked me, I didn't realize at the time, she asked me one of the most important questions I think a leader should ask. She asked, what kind of leader do you want to be? And I said, well, I want to be a good leader. I'd like to be a person that's respected, and a person that leads is what I think leads well. Then she says, well, one of the first things you'll have to do is get well. And I didn't realize at that time what she was meaning. At the moment she said that, I didn't understand what she was telling me. But I was an alcoholic, and I was young. You know, I was living in Paris, playing hockey. Going to school sometimes, and but it was I never, I guess the point of all this, I never saw myself as an alcoholic, but my mom understood you know, some of my difficulties, and was aware of a lot of the problems that I had. So when she told me that I had to get well, she framed it this way. She said, just imagine you have an important meeting Tuesday morning, and then the night before, you know, you go and have your drinks with your friends, and so on and so on and so on. And then the next day, you're expected to make a good decision, a healthy decision. But keep in mind that perhaps maybe you'll be sick, and you'll not be well. So the decision that you'll be making on behalf of the people in the community is not going to be a good one. So I asked, well, what do I need to do? And she says, well, one of the things, not I'm going to tell you that you need to do this, but you should actually think of healing yourself and not drink. So I haven't, since that time, 1987, I haven't had a drink since that time. So I'm very proud of that. And it was very important for me to do that. And it, again, you know, the trials and tribulations of being a leader, an Indian Act chief is, you know, they're pretty difficult because you're dealing with a government that's not always respectful of who you are, who your people are, your community, and it's a form of oppression, you know, that these leaders I mentioned in the book of Ota'wa-and-Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe stood up against and fought against. So, anyways, that was one of the most more important decisions I made in my life at that time, that I did for myself and for my mind and for my heart. And I come home to Saskatchewan, and as I mentioned in the book, one of the first, you know, as I mentioned, the community was deeply divided, and the community was in receivership. And going to receivership for First Nation community is probably one of the ultimate punishments that government can lay upon our people, because it tells the community, it tells our people that, you know what, you're not able to make decisions for yourself, so we're going to make them for you. So the First Nation was in receivership, and our first day in office, you know, was late March, And you know, the winter was refusing to go. So it was cold. It was overcast, and it was damp. I remember that day because it was first day in office. And band office, because we were in receivership, band office didn't have an electricity. So we had our first meeting using you know, the day's light from in an office that had more windows. And we were a relatively young council. So we had our meeting. And that same day, social assistance was supposed to have been was supposed to have been divvied out, was supposed to have been paid. And lo and behold, Indian Affairs didn't come that day. So you had people already living, you know, hand to mouth, going without. And people were obviously angry with your Indian Act Chief and Council, telling us, why did we elect you guys? You're not going to be any good. So that day, I decided there was absolutely no way the Department of Indian Affairs would wreak that kind of havoc or make our people suffer that way. So we had our meeting. We started our first day, and then we called for a meeting with regional office. They sent their director of social development and a worker. And to the meeting, and we as well had we called in our band constable, our constable. We also called in our legal counsel. The legal counsel didn't know what we were going to do, but the constable did, because I had talked to him beforehand. And what we did at that time, when the officials sat down, we just I had the constable placed him under house arrest for breach of trust, breach of fiduciary obligation, and they were arrested. And our legal counsel, the reason why we had our legal counsel was to make certain that we didn't cross any lines. Because what had happened later that day was the RCMP detachment was told that we had taken Indian government officials on hostage. But the legal counsel was there to make certain that we applied the rule of law, our rule of law. And we wanted to make certain that we wanted to tell the department that in no way were we going to be bullied and in terms of what they wanted to do in the first case. So anyways, at the end of the day, we released them. And the department was up in arms about this. How could we do this? What right did we have? And who did we think we are? And in fact, one of the directors, who thought I think he assumed he was my friend, said, "Where do you think you live? Who do you think you are? The leader of a banana republic," he told me. So I mean, for me, I found it amusing that he would think that he knew me enough that he would say that to me. So what I did, actually for the next day, I had, I think 10 boxes of bananas sent to him, to his office, at the regional office. And so they wanted to resolve this bad start. and they sent one of their people, and I had heard the name, and he was a bully. He was liked to really push his weight around with our community, and they sent him, thinking that he was going to intimidate us. They sent him I think it was 3 weeks later, so he came. But he came anyways. He was going to push the government agenda with us. Anyways, the man sat down, took his notes, and then as we noticed, well, I certainly noticed that when he was reading his notes, his paper was shaking. He was so afraid. And so I also felt that a person should never be afraid for doing his or her job or trying to fulfill his or her responsibility. So, we no one should ever be in fear. So I felt we felt bad about that. Anyways, things were resolved, and we started making headway in terms of taking back responsibility for our own government. And this is an important part of the story that's shared in our hearts are as one. So we were elected in March, and in June, the Elders Council, Men's Council, Youth Council, Elders Council, we asked, what should we do? How should we, remove this divide and heal? One of the things the elders suggested is that we have a shaking tent, chiskan. And this, for the community and for myself, actually, really became a really defining moment in my walk. Because what we learned, or what we were told from the shaking tent, from the chiskan and then from the shaking tent man, was that, they were other forces at play in what we were doing in our life here on this earth. So the ceremony, like I said, became a very defining moment in what we did during my time as Indian Act Chief at Saging, and I was there for 5 consecutive 2-year terms. And very, very quickly and very simply, the Chishkan, the shaking tent, and Memegwisi Sak, the little people, Makanak, Sugar Makwa, they told us very simple things, that we meet with our people as the seasons change. We meet 4 days. And in these 4 days, the first day, Chief and Council say nothing. Chief and Council listen. The Indian Act Chief and Council listen. People will talk. People will bring their frustrations, obviously. People will bring their hurts. People will bring their visions. And our only responsibility at the first day is to listen. The second day, the people will start prioritizing their issues. What issues should we focus on? Because 2 years is not a long time. So they determined what issues we should focus on. The third day, it would be the people that would determine the strategy and the work plan. And the fourth day, we would be given the opportunity to talk. And the reason for that is the responsibility or the job of a leader, of any leader, is to listen. And it was also Anishinaabe in time, long time ago, in times past, Indians knew how to listen. So leadership, I was taught that leadership, you lead by following. I think only one leader in this, in the contemporary world got it right, and that was Barack Obama. He said, the United States will lead by following. But people within his country and other leaders in other countries saw that as a sign of weakness for some reason. But it's at the end of the day, it's about your community and it's about the people. So that's how we govern ourselves for the time I was Indian leader. And at the end of the 4-day meeting, we would feast and we would dance. So that's how we approached governance Hugimawan at Saging. And like I said, this became a pretty defining moment in my entire life, because I started looking for I'm not sure of the word. I started looking for an honest, I don't know if that's the right word, a way forward, a grounded way forward. And one of the things I had asked elders was, how did we govern ourselves in the past? And up until that time, the Ojibway-Anishinabe, Anishinabe, Kodishkitekan, the three, our hearts are as one fire. The Three Fires Confederacy was known to a certain few. This governance, this way of governing ourselves, has been with the Ojibwe, Ota'wa and Ishkodawatomi peoples since the Great Migration from the East Coast to the West. And within this governance structure, the Ojibway-Anishinabe were the eldest brother. They had the Ojibway-Anishinabe had the responsibility for recording our history. They had the responsibility for writing our story. So that's how the name Ojibway-Anishinabe, the people that write. And it's not this term that I've heard a lot of it, like that I grew up hearing about Chippewa, that it means puckered up. It's the way we made our mouths, and it's absolutely not. We were just we recorded our history, we wrote our stories. And so if you to the east of you, any rock paintings, those are Ojibway-Anishinabe writers. The birch bark scrolls, that's Ojibway-Anishinabe. So Ojibway-Anishinabe. So Mima and Jip, from there, you have the middle brother, the Ota'wa and Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe. You also, there's two terms, they have two responsibilities. Ote means heart. Wa, they're the heartland people. They had responsibilities for ceremony, for spirituality, but they also had responsibility for the economic well-being, if I can use that term, economic well-being of the Confederacy, because they Ota'wa in Ojibwe means to buy. So they were responsible for the economic, like I said, the economic well-being of our people. And last, the Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe were the fire people. They were the youngest brother, so they had the responsibility for keeping the flame of sovereignty, for keeping the flame, safeguarding the flame of sovereignty, independence, and self-determination. Pretty important responsibility for the youngest brother. So within the context of this family, the Confederacy was responsible for everything that we have today. Ubandrak was the son of an Ojibwe man, and he was also the son of an Ota'wa woman. So he took the war in 1763, an attempt to maintain this notion of the middle ground. And the middle ground at that time was this spiritual place where peoples came to sound their voice, to reach or make sacred covenants. So he wanted to maintain that. And the middle ground as well was obviously it was a respectful place. And the Three Fires Confederacy during that period, I'll just very quickly say this. When they took the war in 1763, Ubandrak as well was reacting, was acting on a vision of a Lenape-Anishinaabe spiritual man by the name of Niwen. And Niwen, this is 1763, he was already warning our people that, look, if we don't protect our lands, if we don't protect our way of life, if we don't protect our language, we'll lose everything. This is 1763. So Ubandrak took the war in May of 1763. By October, actually October 7th was the Royal Proclamation. Was when the Royal Proclamation was delivered. But within 3 months, Ubandrak had taken 6 of the 8 major British forts. The only forts he didn't take were Fort Pitt and Fort Detroit. Fort Detroit was under siege during that time, well, Fort Pitt, he didn't take Fort Pitt because of the Confederacy knew that there was smallpox in the fort, and they were going to use smallpox against the against the Anishinaabe. So they didn't meet or accept the surrender of Fort Pitt. They absolutely they left it. And Fort Detroit, they were going. Like I said, Fort Detroit was under siege, and they would have taken Fort Detroit, but then he got notice that this peace treaty was signed between the French and the British, and then he said to people around him, war leaders around him, that you know what, they can have their fort, we have our land. So from the Royal Proclamation 1763, October 7th, 1763 was when it was, like I said, when it was delivered. A treaty process was established. And it created a boundary, this proclamation line, which was the Appalachians. Anything west of the Appalachians was belonged to the Indian nation. And the Indian nation was obviously you had different nations, but they even then they were lumping us all into one. But a treaty process was established. The Treaty of Niagara in 1764 was supposed to have ratified the Royal Proclamation, because we weren't privy to the peace treaty that was negotiated by the French, by the Dutch. So the Treaty of Niagara in 1764 was when we were supposed to have ratified the Royal Proclamation. Strangely enough, Ota'wa didn't go to Niagara to sign the treaty. As before that, he went to a shaking tent as well and asked the Great Turtle if he should go. The Great Turtle told him not, because the British weren't serious. So he never went. He never put his mark on the Treaty of Niagara. Instead, he sent his second in command in the Nene from Michilimackinac to go. So that was telling in of itself. So from 1763 to 1812, you had treaties being negotiated. And then you had treaties being negotiated by what would become, or what by men that were, the term they came up with were medal chiefs, chiefs that had medals. And these men were appointed by, not by our own people, but they were appointed by by British, by American. So that this created a problem for Tecumseh, who would start planning the challenge to what was taking place at that time. And then so you had from that period, 1763 to 1812, you ended up having a lot of land surrenders. Land surrenders that were being made by these men that were medal chiefs, and by other nations who were surrendering lands that didn't belong to them. And Tecumseh stepped to the fore and started to challenge all of this. And one of the things he as well acted on a vision, a spiritual vision. This time of his brother Lala Wisakau, whose vision was very similar to Niwin in 1763. So he too, had the spiritual connection to what would take place. So he ended up challenging the colonies, and obviously the Royal Proclamation was a problem for the American colonies, because the American colonies wanted to move further west. And you have to keep in mind that the colonies at that time, 13 colonies, it was a small, it was probably, the depth was probably 1,000 miles width, and probably from New England to Florida, it wasn't that, wasn't that huge. But anyways, the American, the colonies wanted to move further west, so they started negotiating treaties with these metal chiefs, like I said, and with other nations that were surrendering lands that didn't belong to them. So Tecumseh stepped up and said, if you're going to establish treaty, you have to establish treaty with all the Anishinaabe, with the collective. And these conquest treaties that you're negotiating, we don't recognize. And it came to a head with the Treaty of Fort Grenville, where he drew a line in the sand and said, you know what, you're not, you cross this line, and you go to war. So they took the war. And again, the three Fars Confederacy were front and center in terms of the War of 1812. And actually, just today's the 13th, just October 5th, 1813, Tecumseh was killed at the Battle of Moraviantown. And if it weren't for the three Fars Confederacy, Tecumseh and Shimuk as well, I'll get into him. I'll speak of him in a little bit. But if it weren't for the three Fars Confederacy and the leadership of Tecumseh and Shimuk, Canada wouldn't have existed, because the United States was at that time looking at expanding northward as well. And Tecumseh gave his life for for preservation of this land, of this idea of Manitou Aki. So Tecumseh had had a very big impact on the outcome of his country. Shigwak was an Ojibway-Anishinabe leader from Kidigan-Zibi. He fought alongside Tecumseh in 1812, and took a very important stand in 1850. And he changed the idea of treaty in Canada, and what is now Canada. The treaties of the Rumsen-Huron and Rumsen-Strait treaties that were negotiated in 1850, for example, changed the format or the meaning of treaty. Because treaties up until that time, which Tecumseh and was fighting against were basically one-time land surrenders. And this post-Confederation treaty in 1850 changed everything and actually became the template for the numbered treaties, 1 through 11, and also became the template for as well for the modern day treaties. So, you know, it's a lot of, there's a lot of history involved. And all that to say, and I want to come back to my earlier point, just to like why, what was the, what drove me to this place or to where I am today. And like I said, you know, we were looking for answers in the late 1980s, late 1990s. And for Ojibway-Anishinabe, Ota'wa and Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe, Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe, we came to this, to the belief that the Three Fires Confederacy could, should be what we should be striving for, as opposed to what government was attempting to dictate to us. So in 1991, the Three Fires Confederacy, and this was organized by a number of young Ojibwe, Ota'wa and Ishkodawatomi-Anishinabe leaders, strangely enough, that you know, we had the first contemporary meeting of the Three Fires Confederacy at Garden River, Ontario in 1991. And the idea at that time was to step outside of what Canada, the United States, were attempting to do with our nations specifically. And the Confederacy, from that time, has been like from that point in time, became really a rallying cry for me. And I've stayed, you know, I've stayed the course. I've stayed with this vision. The book is a manifestation of that vision. So in 1991, the meeting of the Confederacy took place. In 2007, a second meeting took place at Garden River again. And again, the message was the same. That we need to step out of this colonial structure, if I can use that term, and we need to step out of this and really build on what we had, what we could still have, and what could lead us into the future. And a lot of people still believe in this, the Confederacy. Now you're dealing with different jurisdictions. Obviously, you're dealing with this with the United States. You're dealing with Canada. You're dealing with different provinces. You're dealing with different states. People ask, well, what is the Three Fires Confederacy? What is their territory? Well, we normally answer, well, it begins from the Atlantic seaboard, the Rocky Mountains, to the Carolinas, Dakotas, and to the Great Lake in the north, which would be the Hudson Bay. So that's this 53rd parallel. So that that was the Confederacy territory, and so that's where that's where I'm at today, and that's where this book I think has a message. I don't know how long I've thought.
Oh, it's Jerry. I just want to say the hour has flown by. I love to listen to the cadence just as you tell that story. Part of it yourself, part of it ancestors, part of it present day, part of it for the next generation of and the teachings that flow through all of those generations. I was just writing down all of this, all of the things that popped into my head as you told that story about your path through understanding all of this and trying to bring those teachings into today's governance, today's structures, to help, I guess, remind us of that of who we are along the way, of how that of how those nations, not only the Three Fires Confederacy, but also the British, the French, the Americans, and now it's Canada, have all come together, and that there's teachings in all of that if we're going to live well together. So I just want to raise my hands for all the participants here, and thank you for sharing that story. I know that I've got advice for leaders written down here. I've got responsibilities, accountabilities that we have for each other if we're going to live well together, knowing the real history to help us understand how to better address today's challenges. All of that contained within 1 hour. One of the things that will also stick in my head is at the very beginning of this, when Tzamquatan opened our house and sang that song to all of our relatives. I saw one of your dogs come over and just lean into you and just be there for the opening of that house, just to remind us that all of our relatives are part of this story too. So again, I just want to raise my hands, and if I can turn it back to you, Tzamquatan, to close out our house for today, and remind our guests that we're recording all of these speaker series, and so please come back to watch if there's something in there that reminds you of things that you need to know, and use them going forward as well.
Swallowantita Schwalakwa, Siatala Siam Jerry, Heichka, Mi Stuchta Eichsqualowans to Elina Schwalakwa, E Clicket to Snowiath, at the Holmahwath, Manitou Aki, Holmach, Sleekwinis Siatama Siam. Really want to thank you on our behalf for bringing in the good ways of your people and laying down the teachings of the everything that you shared with us brings about a strong truth that resonates across Canada, and we're all familiar in our own ways with some of the teachings that you shared and the truth of your people, and it's happened across Canada. So in each and every one of our different nations and territories are still grasping on to our culture and our traditional governance. And thank you for sharing your story with us here today. And raise my hands to everybody that is here joining us. I hope that you understand or begin to understand the history of Canada through his words, and read between those lines for the words that are unspoken, because it will help us strengthen our worldview and our understanding. We need to come from that truth to understand where we're going to go. And just really thankful and grateful that you're able to join us here today. So I'll share a song.
Again, thanks for joining us, everybody, today, and especially to you, Jerry Fontaine. I hope you have a wonderful evening ahead of you, and thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
Right.